creator, comes from light. This is just my belief. I'm not pushing this on you. Comes from the creator, comes from light, right? So anything that you consider evil or dark, it's just something that has moved further and further away from the light. That would usually, if it's human, that would usually be someone who's living in the lower nature, the lower chakras. So they're caught up in sex, money, control, all of the lower feeling, all of the lower chakras dictate those feelings. Sex addicts, people that are caught up in wanting to control everything, power. Well, what that does is it creates an imbalance in your energy field, and it absolutely can pull you further and further away from God, because now you're not in your upper chakras or more your spiritual center. Now you're just living in the lower chakras. You're living in, I call that living in the lower nature. And what that does is it can cause a separation. Now look, there's no judgment, because everybody's on the journey they chose for their growth. But my point is that's what can happen when someone moves further and further away from the light, is that they can end up with addictions and control issues, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're killing somebody, or raping somebody. And so evil, to me, I don't use that word because I don't consider anything, it just doesn't fit for me. Everything's energy. The astral plane is the is the non-physical plane. We're the physical plane. You know what? Before I say that, I want to say this part. I wanted to say this and I didn't finish. As far as God's concerned, when somebody tells me they don't believe in God, or they just kind of blow it off, you know what I always think? First thought that pops into my head: you're just not there yet. You're not there yet. Because when I was at my lowest, I didn't have anywhere to look but up. I was craving looking up. No human being on earth could fix me, could help me. I tried. I went to people. They couldn't help. All I had was God. So I'm not here to push beliefs. I'm only sharing my story. And I absolutely 100% know that there is something greater than us. There's something that brought me peace in 2.3 seconds. It was virtually impossible for that to happen. And where I was the night, and I'll tell you about that in a little while, when I felt this enormous peace come over me and come into my room, it was palpable. And I didn't create that. That was coming from somewhere else. So, and I've known just through this journey that we do have helpers. We obviously do, because I've seen it. We see little miracles and big miracles, and even through this cancer journey, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But it's just if you don't believe, just one day you'll get there, because that's why we're here. That's why we're here. We're here to remember and to rediscover ourselves, but to remember who we are. I always say, without God, there's no us. Without us, there's no God. It's like we're all a single cell that makes up the body of God. It's that we're all connected. But yeah, I wanted to say that. That's all I had to rely on when I was going through this. I had nowhere else to look but up. And I'm not joking. So, but things continue to be horrible. I didn't feel any improvement. I felt abandoned. I was on the phone with my mom every night. That was a great thing that came from that. We just grew closer and closer because I was relying on her. I just needed support. And God, the prayers that she would say with me on the phone, I could just cry. Like, it was soothing. It got me through many, many nights. Through all of this, what ended up happening is the mediumship part of me, it just was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I did not want to be a medium. I fought with it. I did research on the verses in the Bible, all these, let me say this: if you're using any book to judge someone, just get a new book. That includes the Bible, because I don't agree with that. And I'm not saying that just from a medium standpoint. I'm saying that for anyone. We need unity. We need each other. We don't use any book to judge someone. Plus, it's not supposed to be taken literally. It's more like a mystical experience. But here's the thing. Oh, here's the other thing. You know that most of the Bible was channeled, so why would a channeler write that channeling's wrong? I'll say it again. Why would a channeler write that channeling's wrong? So I'm making fun of it because it was, back then I wasn't, because I was actually really scared, like, don't conjure spirits. And I've never conjured one in my life. But look, when when I was on this whole journey as things were unfolding and I was just seeking knowledge, craving knowledge, I did a lot of research on that. I studied the ancient texts in the Essenes, and, the Bible was actually 80 books or more, not 40. The majority of the books that they got rid of were all about the divine feminine. Imagine that. Taking the women's power away, huh? But that's just where we were in time. No judgment. But the Leviticus verses, those are the ones that really talk about mediumship and psychics. Well, number one, the word psychic wasn't even created until the late 1800s. That wasn't even a word. Same thing with mediumship. That wasn't a word. So the Bible was written a long time ago. So how did those words get put into those verses when they weren't even words? And so that got me digging, because I kept checking in with my spirit guides, and I was getting, nope, those words were not that wasn't what was intended when these verses were written. And what I found was that the verses were actually and some Bibles still have this, they were talking about necromancy. Like, don't seek out somebody that, practices black magic. That's what necromancy is. And I agree with that, actually. What I agree with is anyone that is doing anything that is interfering with someone else's free will is just not a good idea. So doing spell work, somebody wants to manifest a new house, I don't know, whatever, fine. Even new love, that's fine. But not if you're doing spells to get Jeremy, who you have a crush on, into your life. That's not a good idea. You don't want to interfere with his free will. There's karmic consequences for that, just FYI. But I studied all of that. So along the way, I just started gaining more knowledge. And it was fascinating. I used to carry a notepad in my pocket when I worked at EMS, and I'd write all these questions down, and I'd get home and I'm like, all I want to do is meditate. I mean, now I just ask the questions like walking around the house, but that was kind of my time with my guides, was go on, meditate, spend time with them. And I asked them probably any question you can imagine. I've asked everything. First question I asked was, what exactly is hell? I mean, I know it's not brimstone and fire, because when you die, you're not in a physical body. So brimstone and fire is not gonna hurt. So what is it? It's a state of consciousness. It exists on Earth. But yeah, so the mediumship part really started unfolding. One day I was at work, and I'm still fighting it, right? I've done some readings, not many, but one day I was at work, and it was at EM15 station in the middle of Baton Rouge. 2 ambulances run out of that station because it's so busy. And right at crew change, when we got to the station, all 4 of us, the new crew, arrived, and both ambulances were gone. They were on late calls. So I go out, and I'm just, getting supplies together and stuff. Same stuff we do on every crew change. And the guy that was working the other ambulance walked past me, and right when he did, I swung around, and before I knew it, what came out of my mouth, which I'm thinking I heard that just like he heard it. I don't know. I didn't even know I said it, but I said, "Hey, did your dad die of a heart attack? Like, just drop dead?" And I think it was right after retirement, worked at Exxon and all this. And he looked at me and he said, "How do you know all that?" I was like, "I don't know." I said, "Well, because I feel him, and I'm so sorry, because I only work from permission, right? I mean, and that's my mentality, but here I am standing in front of a coworker who I have been hiding all of this from. I mean, several people at work knew about this part of me, but it's not something I talked about all the time. There's a lot of type A personalities in public service. You just, I was not at that comfort level, not at the comfort level that I am now, but I said that. And anyway, I ended up giving him a message. It was beautiful, actually, and I don't remember everything that was said, but I remember how I felt, and it was not just, your dad loves you. there was like a lot of validation that he gave, that stuff that nobody knew about, which is, what makes a reading feel so real. And I give him the message, and then I'm like, I am so sorry, because he's crying. And I said, I am so sorry. I felt like I crossed the line. And he was kind of like gasping. And then right in that minute, the other crew was, our truck was pulling up, the ones that were on the late call. And like, hurry up, guys, grab your radios and narcs and all, y'all got a call. So I had to jump on the truck and go. And all I could think about was him. Like, I got to go back and apologize because he's crying. We didn't have any further conversation. So about an hour and a half goes by, and they ended up getting a call right after we did. But I ended up at the station probably about 10 minutes after he did. And when I walked, we backed our truck up into the bay, and when I walked around the other side of the truck to plug the shoreline in, he was sitting on the floor in the bay crying. And I sat on the floor with him. I said, I'm so sorry. He said, Stacy, don't apologize. I feel like for the first time in all these years I can breathe. And then I'm like, I can cry about it now, right? Because I felt such relief, first off. I felt relief because I thought I'd crossed the line, but then I felt his emotion, and I felt like the power of what just came out of my mouth. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Because he had been in so much pain. He was really close to his dad. He didn't get to say goodbye. And, here I am trying to apologize. Here he is wanting to know more. And so little things, well, I say they're big things for those people. But things like that kept happening. Things kept just falling in my lap, so to say. And what basically was happening was my spirit guides giving me opportunities to reinforce my own confidence and what I was doing. And I didn't just give messages in public. I actually gave messages that saved people's lives. And I'm not joking. And it was bizarre. I mean, when I think back on all of it now, it's wild to me. Like, there's no way that I'm going to be randomly, but it's not random, put in a position to literally save someone's life in the middle of nowhere unless God is involved. So why would I think mediumship is wrong when I just saved a life? You see what I mean? So numerous things started happening like that just reinforced it was reinforcing this for me. This isn't just okay to do. You have to do this. This is why I'm here. I started deeply feeling that this is why I'm on earth. It's why, because people need healing, and what I can do is very, very rare. So I'm all in. And I know in mid-sentence and mid-story, I'm gonna shut this video down, because if I don't, it's going to take a really long time to upload, and I'll start another one immediately.